This week on Talking Pictures with Neil Rosen, we'll look at a new action comedy starring Nicolas Cage as a fictionalized version of himself, a new basketball drama with Adam Sandler, a documentary about the life and times of comic legend George Carlin, a new horror thriller starring Ethan Hawke, plus a British film with Mark Rylance about one of the world's worst golfers. We've got all that and many more movie picks coming up. I'm Neil Rosen, and welcome to Talking Pictures. It's our monthly Critic Roundtable show, where we debate what's worth watching and what's not when it comes to new releases, hidden gems, and Hollywood classics. Joining me today are Bill McCuddy from Gold Derby, who's wearing appropriately themed movie popcorn socks.
Yeah, and these have butter, so they're kind of messy.
Okay, and Perry Nemiroff is here from Collider. Hey there, Perry, good to see you back here.
I am always happy to be back here.
And
we'll change that.
I'm sure you will.
Our buddy Mike Sargent from BAI has returned as well. Hey, Mike.
Neil.
All right, let's talk about some movies, and let's start out with a look at several new films and limited series in theaters and or streaming, beginning with a new movie called The Phantom of the Open. Let's take a look at a clip.
We've come outside to the studio car park to meet the man who shot a world record 121 at the British Open. He is the world's worst professional golfer.
No, sorry, I don't agree with that. I'm not the world's worst golfer, and I'm willing to prove it.
Okay, great. So we have set up a little golf course here in the car park.
Yeah, it's not a golf course, it's a putting green.
Great. It's exciting, isn't it? Oh, now that was close.
That was just a practice shot, and get the pace of the green.
Yes, well, it has been raining out here, so it could be a little bit damp, couldn't it? Oh!
Mike, tell us about The Phantom of the Open.
Okay, Phantom of the Open is a story that I'd never heard before. It's a true story. It's based on a book about Maurice Flitcroft, who is someone who could not play golf but wanted to, and was able to get into the British Open in 1976. This is before they changed the rules, and had the worst score ever. So they banned him. They changed the rules, they banned him, they made it so nobody else could do it again. But this didn't stop him. He decided to keep coming back under ridiculous, almost Monty Python-esque aliases. And it's
disguises.
And disguises. Well, of course, aliases and disguises, fake mustaches. But I have to say, Mark Rylance is really what makes this work. He and Sally Hawkins together are a lot of fun. He's sort of a classic nincompoop, but you love him.
Perry.
I adored this movie so much. I love me a good underdog story about someone who overcomes odds to actually be really good at their sport, if not win a tournament. But it really was so refreshing to see. I mean, I don't know if mediocrity is the right word, or just like someone's pure love for a sport like that, whether they're pro level or not, be fully embraced. And I feel like that's the kind of movie that can make anyone out there want to go out and give golf a shot.
Well, listen, except for the British Open part, this basically is my story. I can't play golf either, so I'm sneaking on wherever they'll let me. Listen, the interesting thing here, and I think the headline, is that Mark Rylance, who was a stage actor and then a professional, dramatic actor, and won an Oscar in a Steven Spielberg film, has now found a comic voice, and he's doing Don't Look Up, the thing that otherwise was kind of dreadful, but he was kind of cool in it. And he's doing this. This is like a Rowan Atkinson kind of a part, but he makes it his own, and I look forward to more comedy from Mark Rylance.
Mark Rylance, the greatest performance I ever saw on stage in my life.
Okay, nobody cares.
It was Mark Rylance in a play called La Bête.
Oh, good.
And he just elevates everything.
Was he really funny in that play?
He was.
Oh, okay.
And he elevates everything that he does. The fact that this is true makes this all the more charming. It's a light British comedy, and if you like that sort of thing, I think you'll really enjoy this film. It's sweet, and he's great. Next up is a twisted, dark comedy called I Love My Dad. Bill?
This is going to either be considered by audiences cringeworthy or an audacious, writing and directorial debut by others. Either way, this is what you need to understand. It really did happen. That's James Morosini. He's playing Franklin, and Patton Oswalt is his estranged dad. Now, stay with me because it gets a little weird from here. The only way he can talk to his son is by assuming an online identity, in this case, an imaginary girl. So actually, he catfishes his own kid. Patton Oswalt is an accomplished stand-up comedian who has had other serious turns in films I've enjoyed, like Big Fan and Young Adult. But this film gives a complete new definition to father-son bonding. If your dad sends you a text saying you need to see this movie, make sure it's really him.
Perry.
I can't believe this movie works as well as it does. The second I heard the broad concept of it, I also don't like using the word cringe very often, but I thought it would be too much of that for me to get invested at all. But I think
He has online sex with his son.
I know. I will never forget that scene.
He's posing as a beautiful girl, not his father, so he could talk to his kid. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, but that's the thing. It embraces the hilarity of the cringe in a way that you can enjoy laughing along with the situation. But there also is actual heart to the movie too, because
really
at its
is.
core, it really is just about a dad who's terrified to lose his son.
And he's trying to connect to his son. I don't think anybody but Patton Oswalt could have pulled this off.
Yeah, although, you know, there are lots of comics who try and do serious stuff and it doesn't work, and he's one of these guys that I think is getting more into it.
I think Mike is 100% right. In the hands of a lesser comedic actor, this would be super creepy. In some ways, it is kind of creepy, but the guy who stars in this, James Morosini, he directs it, he wrote the thing. He juggles the dark humor, which, as you said, Perry, with sentimentality. Plus, there's a fun twist ending. And I think...
By the way, the studio called and they want to use your quote, "not super creepy," for the poster. Is that okay? Will you let him do that?
I think it's fun. It's weird, it's fun, and certainly different. But I would recommend it. And you guys all do too. So
Perry's
okay,
quote
there you
would
go.
be
Let's
not as
move on.
cringy as you think. Right?
No, it is that cringy.
Moving on. Let's talk about a new movie called Cha-Cha Real Smooth. Perry.
I'm so excited. This was one of my favorite movies at Sundance 2022, and now it is likely going to be one of my favorite movies of the year. It is about a young man who graduates college and moves back home, and he's working at a place in a mall food court, so it's not really the ideal post-college situation. So then,
The parents are so proud.
Yeah, they're really proud he works at Meat Sticks, but then he winds up getting a job as a party starter at bar and bat mitzvahs, and that's where he meets Dakota Johnson's character, and the two of them start up a little bit of a relationship. And when I first heard about the movie, I thought it was largely going to be about their romantic relationship. He's fresh out of college, she's a little older, a little further along in life, and I thought that was just going to be the core of the movie, and it is. It's a good spine to it, but really, this isn't a movie about exploring the value of a romantic relationship. It's about highlighting every single type of relationship you could have out there and how different forms of a relationship are valuable to a person's life. I think it's beautiful.
And this director handles it really, really well. You know, he's made one other movie that we can't say the title of.
Yeah, and
but
the
it was
title
one
of
of
this
my
movie
absolute...
is, by the way, it's a good movie. The title of this movie is terrible also.
Yeah, he's bad with
No, it's
titles, but he's
not.
great with movies. I think this thing, also, the big surprise is that Dakota Johnson is good in this thing. I mean, she can phone stuff in or seem disinterested sometimes in other things I've seen her in. I won't mention anything specifically, but I thought she was really engaging in this, and I think it's one of the best little movies of the year.
Look, writing, directing, and starring in a movie is no easy task, but I think that Cooper Raiff, who does this, pulls it off. All the people in this movie are broken in some way, which I think adds another tone of realism to this. And, you know, Raiff has written himself a character that's maybe a bit too much of a nice guy, but I kind of am endeared to him anyway, and you know.
And what a supporting cast. You've got Brad Garrett, you've got...
Cooper Raiff is an exceptional actor's director also, because not only does he have a whole bunch of people who are capable of delivering A-plus performances, but he really shows how he prioritizes what they want to do with the character and their chemistry with the other characters. And I think that's why, top to bottom, every single character in this movie actually serves a purpose and has value.
I also enjoyed the dynamic between Raiff's character and Dakota Johnson's autistic daughter. I thought that was
Vanessa
handled-
Berghardt is excellent. This is her first film.
Well, it was handled really well. Yeah, I recommend this. This is really good movie. George Carlin's American Dream is a remarkable documentary about one of the most important figures in comedy over the last 50 years. Let's take a look at a clip.
George Carlin. He was never not in the discussion of greatest comedian ever.
Smart. George is the smartest.
Smartest man I'd ever met.
You watch a George Carlin bit, you know he's not riffing.
He was genius at making you laugh and changing your mind.
He was an avatar for anti-corruption.
Like a truth machine.
My worldview was really shaped by Carlin.
He found injustice offensive, kind of like a biblical prophet.
I want to say something. He was so funny. By the way, I'm not trying this stuff out on you. I'm not trying it out. Don't do that. The audience doesn't really figure into my plans. Here's the way I look at it. I'm here for me, you're here for me, and no one's here for you.
Bill, tell us about George Carlin's American Dream.
Well, it is kind of a dream. This is a guy that reinvented himself over and over and over again, and we've got some of the most incredible talking heads talking about him. We get the life and the love of this iconic legend, and it's told in 2 parts, and I could have sat there for 3 or 4 parts. It traces his straight-laced coat and tie beginnings to his ever-evolving sharpness and hippie, trippy observations until his untimely death in 2008. You got Chris Rock here, you got Jerry Seinfeld, you got Patton Oswalt, Stephen Colbert, Bill Burr, Bette Midler is in this thing. Kelly Carlin, his daughter, is in it, who does some tremendous work on Sirius XM, talking to other comics. She knows this world. She lived with her father. And it's all assembled by Judd Apatow and Mike Bonfiglio, who also did Gary Shandling. They've done a thing with Gary Goldman. They understand comics and comedy, and this is a love letter to fans of Carlin and to everyone who's ever seen him work.
I thought it was great. I'm a huge George Carlin fan, and I have to say a couple things stood out to me. One, there's this saying, they say that, the more you know, the more depressed you'll be. The more dark you are, the more you know about things. And not only did he reinvent himself, but by the end, he wasn't really just doing comedy anymore. Right. He was making social commentary to the point where things he was saying then, I've seen many, many people replaying these clips today in the world we're living in. So Carlin saw, I see him almost like a futurist, where we were headed.
I know, it's incredible.
It is.
As you said, Bill, he actually goes through 5 different transitions career-wise, and they're all very different. But this last one, which is the end of this documentary, where, as you say, Mike, he's predicting the future. He recorded these bits 15, 20 years ago, and he's talking about viruses that...
abortions.
I mean, it's just like, you look at this, and it's like jaw-dropping, and it is funny, but it's also like prophetic. It's like, I cannot believe this. And I think Judd Apatow and his partner really did Carlin proud, because this is one of the most brilliant documentaries I've seen.
There's also a great love story here that people won't believe, that he had a woman that he loved at home, and this is the guy you thought was on the road, and he was on the road a lot, but there's a great, great love story here, in fact, too.
I went in with a much more surface level knowledge of George Carlin and his work. Like, obviously I knew who he was and I knew the basics, and I've seen some of his work, but this was more of a much more thorough introduction for me, and I appreciated the mixture of behind the scenes and also pieces of material that focused on his performance, because I needed both of those things. I will say though, it felt almost like a little too frenetic, the pacing. Like, there were certain big career moments for him where I kind of wanted it to pump the brakes and let me just sit with him a little and experience those pivotal moments. So I do wonder if that is more so because of how I'm coming at it as more of a newcomer versus, 3 people who are really familiar with his work.
What's really amazing about Carlin is how he walks away from this lucrative Las Vegas contract to become like the hippie guy, and then later, when he's kind of like not on the top of his game, and other comics are saying, yeah, he's over, he says, no, I'm going to make these people eat their words. I mean, it's just, I was riveted in this thing from start to finish. Switching gears entirely, Perry, let's talk about a movie called Happening.
This is a very, very tough watch. The film is an adaptation of Annie Ernaux's semi-autobiographical novel. It takes place in France in the 1960s, and it focuses on a very, very bright young student who gets pregnant, and she gets pregnant at a time when abortions aren't legal in France. She decides that she's got to do something on her own, even if that means risking going to prison and also risking her own life and health in the process. This film would have been difficult to watch any day, any year, but it is especially upsetting seeing a story unfold in the 60s and then seeing us head back in that direction today. So it was a movie that I really wanted to turn off for that reason, but it is also an exceptionally well-made and well-acted film. The lead in this, Anna Maria Bartolomei, is phenomenal in this film.
She's incredible.
The atmosphere and how quickly it just sucks you into her headspace, I think speaks to the quality of the filmmaking in general, but also her performance, where you can really feel the weight of the unfair pressure that she's under every step of the way here.
I agree. I thought it was enormously powerful. I felt it was like watching a thriller almost, where what's going to happen to this person. And like you said, this would have been a tough thing to watch at any time. But realizing like this is not how it was, but this is how it could be.
That's why it's called Happening, because it was happening to her, but it's also happening now. I agree with both of you, and I think it's an incredible movie and very topical and very timely and should be seen, but I just want to warn people, I'm not recommending it because it is incredibly, incredibly difficult to watch.
Listen, it is graphic and tough to watch, but it's a powerful drama, and I think that's the point of the film. I mean, you know, the director who adapts this novel pulls no punches at all here. And, you know, makes a very powerful drama, which, as you've all said, it winds up being, you know, this takes place in the early 1960s and winds up being extremely timely today when you watch this. But yeah, be warned that it is very hard to watch. It's tough to sit there. She's amazing, as I said. She's just
great.
an amazing performer.
I don't think it's going to change anybody's mind.
The director's terrific. I think she has such subtlety for things. There are lots of little things that happen in this movie. I don't even think this movie could have been made by a man.
Mike, tell us about a new documentary called Our Father.
All right, Netflix has been doing very well with these crime documentaries, these real crime documentaries. And it's interesting that this film, Our Father, is a crime documentary, but it was made by Blumhouse. So it kind of feels like a horror movie when you watch this thing. And it's about a woman who decides to use 23andMe, and she finds out she has more siblings, more than she ever thought, because her mother had gone to a fertility doctor. Turns out this fertility doctor was impregnating literally dozens and dozens of women. I don't want to give too much away. I think this is a really powerful, disturbing film, and it's disturbing that this is happening. If I was going to say anything negative about it, is that it really shows you the what more than it does the why. And you really, to me, I wanted to get a sense of the psychology of this individual. There's guesses, but you could have brought people in, I think, that could have said something. But I liked it.
This is a hugely disturbing true story, but I think somehow they managed to package it into like the most, I don't want to use this word, but hopefully you know what I mean, the most entertaining and digestible format of this story possible. And, you know, again, this is a situation where I only knew the absolute basics, so to be able to see a little more and meet some of these people definitely made the story feel fuller to me, and I'm glad I know what they went through and that this happens out there. But it feels like a major missed opportunity to have not dug in deeper, because essentially what this is it's a movie version of a Wikipedia page. They don't actually say anything with the content, and it feels like there's something important to be saying here.
It skims the way a Dateline episode might.
Yes,
I was going to. It's kind of an amped up Dateline to me. So I did want to know more about it. I think it's pretty remarkable that this guy doesn't get any jail time or skips on a lot of what happened here. We're not giving too much away. It's still definitely worth seeing, but yeah, you're right. It could have gone a little deeper.
Well, the testimony by the victims and the parents, and there's some scenes in here like, I mean, this guy is so twisted. I mean, you know, nobody knows, you know, and, you know, one girl who's his daughter who didn't know that this was her father was seeing him as her gynecologist. I mean, talk about like twisted. I mean,
well, how about that half the town could have ended up married to each other?
Yeah,
because nobody
it's a
knew.
Small little town.
Seeing that number tick up every single time that title card popped up, my heart sank.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't think too much of the reenactments as well, I have to say.
Look,
I like this movie.
It's a fascinating true life horror story. I mean, you know, you look at this, and I think at the end they said it was 82. He has 82 kids and still counting. Because
94.
Yeah, it was the 90s.
94.
Oh, was it 94? Okay, so then the tally's gone up.
See, it's gone just since we were sitting here. I know. 12 more kids.
I know, but how horrifying is that? You know.
Yeah.
Well, this guy is the real Doctor Strange. You know, indeed.
All right, I get it. You're making this up? What is this, like a little Stanislavski improv thing? Well, you can stop.
Stanislavski, is he part of the resistance?
Stop! I am your guest! Gabriella ripped the bedspread off me this morning. Now you're sending me on like a wild goose chase!
I'm sorry, but you can't quit acting. You can't!
That's none of your business.
Whether you like it or not, you have a gift. And that gift brings light and joy to an increasingly dark and broken world. And to turn your back on that gift is to turn your back on the entire human race.
the human race.
That was a clip from the movie The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. It's Bill McCuddy's personal choice as we go around the panel with our Critics' Picks of the Month. Bill.
Well, for anyone who hasn't gotten it from that clip, Nicolas Cage is playing himself. It's the role of a lifetime for a guy who doesn't know how to underact. This is one of my favorite movies of the summer, just after Pig, which was a much more serious Nicolas Cage movie. This is about a rich guy on an island that hires Nicolas Cage to come to his birthday for $1 million and spend some time with him. There are some other subplots, some other agendas, but this is just a meta movie that lets itself go way over the top. Tiffany Haddish is a CIA agent, Neil Patrick Harris is his agent. They're all fine, but this is all about Nicolas Cage and a guy named Pedro Pascal, who's the rich guy that signs the check that brings him there.
This isn't just one of my favorite movies of the summer season or later in the year. It came out, I think, a little while ago, but it could be one of my favorite movies of 2022 also. There's actually 3 movies in this show that could crack that list, but I went into this movie just expecting some sort of zany action adventure with Nick Cage playing Nick Cage, and it is that. But then on top of that, it's actually a really deep and thoughtful exploration of what it means to have this kind of career in an industry, and also sharing your love of movies with other people and what kind of difference that could make. It's beautiful.
No, I feel the same way. I thought this movie was really, it is very meta. And I like how the third act really becomes like a Nicolas Cage movie. He ends up doing like Nicolas Cage stuff. So I thought that this movie, and Pedro Pascal, some guy named Pedro Pascal, I think he's one of those actors who keeps, like The Mandalorian. So I think that he keeps surprising us at how good he is, and I'm glad to see him getting work.
Cage has made some great movies, and he's also made some movies that are a joke. And here he's in on the joke, making fun of himself and some of his work. And I think it all kind of clicks, and it's fun. And there's a fun story that's connected to it as well. And
it had a horrible title. That's why people didn't go see it. But where I saw it in Sag Harbor, people applauded at the end of it, and they laughed from beginning to end. That's all you need.
I've seen it many a times, and every single screening got an applause.
Perry, what's your pick this month?
My pick is the latest from Ethan Hawke and Scott Derrickson. It is The Black Phone. So this one centers on a young boy. He's 13 years old. His name is Finney, and he becomes the latest target of a local kidnapper known as the Grabber. So while Finney is trapped in the Grabber's soundproof basement, he realizes that there's a disconnected phone on the wall, and that phone gives him the ability to talk to the Grabber's past victims. This is so incredibly well done. I am obsessed with the movie Sinister, Scott Derrickson and Ethan Hawke's last collaboration, and I've been so eager for them to reunite in the horror realm, and they so far exceeded my expectations with this. One of my favorite parts of this movie is that, yes, it is very scary and malicious like Sinister, but whereas that one really does feel malevolent to its core, this one has a really surprising, I guess, thread of hope and inspiration to it, and I think it comes from the 2 leads. Mason Thames, who's playing Finney, and this is his first feature film ever. It's something else. He really commands the screen. And Madeline McGraw, write that name down. You are going to hear more about her as well. Yep, exactly. I love when you all listen to me. They are phenomenal. This is one of the best horror movies of 2022.
Listen, Ethan Hawke usually doesn't do movies like this, but he's great at whatever he does. But you would, with this, look, this is your wheelhouse. Horror is your thing. Is this your favorite horror film of 2022? You said it's one of the best. Would this be so far your favorite of the year?
No, because I still quite like Screamin' X. It's up there, though.
Well, Ethan Hawke is great in whatever he does. Mike, what's your critic's pick this month?
My critic's pick is a film called Operation Mincemeat, and it's a true story with a really bad title about an operation called Operation Mincemeat. And basically, it happened during World War II. This is a point where the Nazis were planning their last big assault, and British intelligence decided they're going to try and fool them by packing some fake papers on a dead body, an already dead soldier, hoping that they would find it, hoping that they would believe all the paperwork in there and believe that they were actually going to be somewhere else than they were. And the Nazis actually fell for it, which is amazing. And I have to say, it stars Colin Firth, Matthew McFadden, and it's a good old-fashioned war movie, like behind the scenes, what was going on. Not what I expected at all. I really enjoyed it. I didn't even think they made movies like this anymore.
Look, this was interesting. This off-the-wall idea, which you would think would be preposterous and could never happen, happened, and that's what makes it enjoyable. And I think Firth and McFadden are great. The director also did Shakespeare in Love. This is
yes, John Madden. This is John Madden.
Yeah, and it's a 180 from that, but it's a very entertaining thriller based on a true story, as you said.
Like this show, it shouldn't work, but it does.
My pick this month is called Hustle. It's a new Adam Sandler movie that isn't a comedy. It's a basketball film where Sandler gives a terrific dramatic performance as a scout for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's tired of being on the road and wants to become an assistant coach so he can spend more time with his family. But in order for that to happen, he has to go out on the road and find one more all-star player for the 76ers. While in Spain, he unexpectedly finds a raw but unbelievably talented player, Bo Cruz, in a street pickup game. But the Sixers owner, played by Ben Foster, doesn't want to sign him. So Sandler quits his job, brings him back to the United States anyway, and trains him day and night for the NBA draft. Utah Jazz forward Juancho Hernangomez plays Cruz, and tons of other real-life NBA stars make appearances throughout the film. The movie is a terrific root for the underdog story. Robert Duvall and Queen Latifah co-star, and the movie was co-produced by LeBron James. Even if you're not a basketball fan, you're going to really enjoy this. It's a slam dunk. Bill McCuddy turned me on to this. Thank you, Bill.
Oh, you're welcome. I think it's great, and I want to underscore what you said about you don't have to be a basketball person to follow this thing. He's giving an amazing performance, almost as intense as Uncut Gems, but a little more comedic.
Yeah, it's really good.
He's great.
So you're 22 years old, because you can't be in the draft if you're over 22.
Yes, I'm 22 years old.
Who's this?
It's my son.
How old is he?
He's 10 years old.
Okay.
Well, that's about all the time we have. I want to thank Bill McCuddy, Perry Nemiroff, and Mike Sargent. I'm Neil Rosen. Join us next time on Talking Pictures.